Hello, Elkhorn Area School District families and community. This is Jason Tadlock, your superintendent. Wanted to take a moment and update our video regarding the referendum. Twofold, we recently updated our graph related to per pupil spending to reflect the Wisconsin Policy Forum's data and numbers. We felt they were an independent party, and I wanted to update that graph and share that with you based on feedback. And we also needed to shorten the video presentation. It's 16 minutes long, and to be frank, the average viewership was 3 minutes. So I'm going to try to cover this in 5 minutes or less, and then it's always open that you can reach out for questions if you have more. But as you may have heard, we plan to go to referendum on April 4th, 2023 for 2 questions. The primary reasons is a lack of state funding and inflationary costs exceeding what were projected, what I think anybody could look at. In addition, we have our federal stimulus dollars that have been expended and dropped off. The referendum will allow us to close those gaps that exist due to those high inflationary costs. If you look back, revenue caps were put in place in 1993, and for the first 16 years, the state kept up with inflationary costs. School budgets were manageable. Schools really didn't have to go to referendum for the most part, other than to do building projects. From 2009 on, the state has failed to keep up with inflationary costs. They took out the language in the state law that required the increases to be pegged to inflation. As such, the reason we're in this financial situation that we are right now is because that lack of keeping up with inflation, the lack of state funding, has resulted in approximately $11,512,000 shortfall if we had been pegged to inflation as previously were. Our revenue sources come from a number of different areas. The bulk of it comes from state sources, 37% and 10% from state aids, and then 33% from the local tax levy, 13% from open enrollment, and 7% from federal sources. How do we spend our money? This is all what makes up our operational portion of our budget, 73% wages and benefits. Then we have supplies, student transportation, utilities, maintenance, open enrollment out, and other purchase services. You'll notice that there's nothing related to our building costs other than our utilities and maintenance. That's because the building expansions, those are covered through the other referendums that were passed, and they do not have an impact on our ongoing budget. We don't get to use those dollars for operational needs. The lack of keeping up with inflationary costs does put us in a position where we're projecting a $3.5 million shortfall next year, $6 million the following, and then 7.1 after that if those shortfalls aren't closed. This is assuming a $200 per pupil increase from the state and a increase in expenditures of 3.5% each year due to inflationary costs. So the 2 questions that we have on the referendum, one is to exceed the budget by $6 million for 5 years. At that point, they'll give us a chance to go back, reevaluate, see where we're at, see where the state funding's at. Maybe there's been additional funding for schools and we don't need that amount to move forward. Maybe there's still a lack of funding. We might need a greater amount than that, but it gives us a chance to reassess that in 5 years. The second question is to exceed the revenue cap by $500,000 for in perpetuity, or every year recurring after that. And those dollars would be used to invest in our 4-year-old kindergarten program, in particular to make the 4-year-old kindergarten teachers no longer daycare employees, but Elkhorn Area School District teachers, so that they're compensated in an equivalent level to our pay scale and so forth, and hopefully bring some stability and additional resources for the 4K learning centers. I think it's important to have an understanding of where our per pupil spending is as compared to the rest of the state. This, again, you can go to the Wisconsin Policy Forum, you can Google it, you can look at lots of different sources, and everybody calculates it a little bit differently depending on the source where you pull it from. Our prior chart that we had, it showed the spending for all the districts slightly higher than that. That was how it was pulling the revenues and dividing it by the different students. The ratios still remain the same, and in every chart, every graph you look at, when you take our total budget, you divide it by the number of students we serve, we're amongst approximately the 10 lowest school districts in the state of Wisconsin, which I believe, in double checking that, is just over 420 school districts. You can see the state average is $13,831. We sit around $11,712. What will be the cost of this referendum? This is the total max worst case scenario, assuming 3% increase in property values next year, 2% the following year, and that the state provides no additional property tax relief, which would be up to $215 per $100,000 of property value. We just want to be transparent on that. We do plan to step that in. I really feel that it's going to be significantly less than that, but we wanted to give you a worst case possible scenario. This is the history of our mill rates over time. You can see in 2017-18, we were at 9.86 of property value. I think the most important aspect of this chart is to see how the different revenues make up our budget. Purple is our general fund. That's our general operating fund. That's what we have to pay teachers, wages, all those operating costs. Yellow are those referendums that would be the building costs, the expansions. All that money is accounted for. What we're talking about in this referendum would add the green portion. You add the green and the purple together, and that makes up our general fund, our operational fund that we would use for our operations from year to year. So again, voter information is provided here. You can go to our website. We have a lot of information on the website. We encourage people to go out and vote and let your voices be known. If you are a part of a community organization, you'd like me to come and do a presentation, spend a lot more time going into depth on the referendum, contact Jody. Her phone number and extension is right there. Or you can go to our website, the referendum online. It's hyperlinked in the presentations. Or you can send me an email, and happy to discuss any of this with you individually. Have a great day and take care.